All right, folks, welcome back. Telephone number for us is 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Looking ahead, the President of the United States will be in Davos, and he will be giving a speech, and they are bracing for impact over there, the elitists. I can hardly wait to hear what he has to say to them. If what I've heard from Bessent so far and Lutnick and all those are any indication what the president's going to unleash, I'm incredibly excited to see these people who have colluded and collaborated against our people for so long get their just desserts. Let me bring on somebody who really needs no introduction, folks. He's one of the most well-known conservatives in the House of Representatives, Congressman Chip Roy, an effective conservative who represents the 21st Congressional District in the great state of Texas. He is on the House Judiciary, Rules, and Budget Committees, and is the policy chair of the Freedom Caucus. He is running for the Texas Attorney General slot to replace our great conservative Attorney General Ken Paxton. Mr. Roy, welcome back.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Look, I have a unique opportunity with you. I can go over what needs to happen with the next Attorney General of the great state of Texas, and also pick your brain about what's happening in the U.S. Congress. Let me just start off with Congress first, because I've only got one or two questions about that.
Sure.
We've had Republicans in the House come on, talk about the intransigence of what's going on in the U.S. Senate. And I think writ large, the Republican-controlled Congress, I can basically couch it as this. They have done very little to pass and codify into law the America First agenda so as to protect us in the future if we're unlucky enough ever to get saddled with a Democrat regime in the future. Why are we not seeing more of these America First agenda items attached to what they call must-pass bills?
Well, Chris, this could be a 2-hour answer, but
Right.
Let me just give you the succinct version. First of all, let me just state the positive. I'm very proud of what we accomplished in the big, beautiful bill, and it took a lot of us throwing down to get it done. Remember last May, we were being forced to be told that the stuff that was in the bill, the tax cuts and everything that we all like, that we weren't going to be able to include the Medicaid reforms to go after the fraud and to require work requirements and so forth that would reduce the fraud and save over $1 trillion, and the Green New Scam subsidies that we were able to get about half of which peeled back. We were being told those couldn't be in the bill. Okay, and I just want you to think about that. 4 of us, we threw down in the Budget Committee and said, nope, we're killing the bill. Now, that raised a lot of eyebrows. People said, whoa, Chip Roy and these other guys are going to kill the big, beautiful bill. We threw down and we forced them to include those reforms. Now, in the end, we got a good bill with tax cuts, with significant reforms, cutting the Green New Scam subsidies back, and a lot of good policies the president wanted and that the American people wanted. Now, that's how you do it. I gave that as a preview because that's how you have to fight. That's how things, with a thin majority in the House and with the Senate the way it is, that's what you have to do. So now fast forward to where we are. There are other bills the American people want to see passed. People listening to your show, right? I don't have to poll them to know that they agree with me that we need to pass the SAVE Act.
Yes.
We need to pass the SAVE Act plus voter ID. SAVE Act, of course, is a requirement that you show proof of citizenship. It's a bill that I drafted 2 years ago during 2024 because I was concerned about President Trump's election. We passed it. The Senate jammed it. We passed it again this year. The Senate hasn't moved it. Now, why is that? They hide behind the 60-vote threshold. That is a fake threshold. It is a fake filibuster, or as Mike Lee calls it, a zombie filibuster, meaning it's not even really real. The Senate can force senators to have to speak on the floor to filibuster, like Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Yep.
But they've got to do it. And the way that works is 51 senators, 51 Republicans would have to go to the Senate floor and say, we want the SAVE Act. Then when you do that, they're on the floor, they demand the vote. Democrats would have to speak, and when they stop speaking, they could call the vote at 51 and pass it. But senators are old, lazy, refuse to do it, stubborn, not conservative enough, whatever it is, and they won't do it. So that was a lot of words. I tried to do it quickly, but that's how we have to play hardball.
Yes.
So I think the House ought to pick up the SAVE Act, add voter ID to it, a firm voter ID requirement, which I wanted to put on the bill anyway. It was strategic why we didn't, and send it over to the Senate. and then demand the Senate pull it up on the floor. I think we should repass the HR2 from the last Congress, codify the border security provisions that reflect the president's hard work, fix all the crap Biden and Mayorkas abused, because Lord knows when we have a future Democrat in the White House, if we don't codify that stuff, they're going to do exactly what Biden and Mayorkas did, and we're going to have no country left.
Well,
if we don't pass the SAVE Act, we're having no country left.
I know. And here was my evaluation, because as you know, the big, beautiful bill, with all the elements of good that was in it, there were plenty elements of bad in it as well. And folks like Mike Lawler on the House side, Don Bacon on the House side, these moderate squishes in the House, because of them, we had to accept a lot of this bad stuff instead of doing a clean, conservative bill. And I said after the Republican, a big, beautiful bill overspent more than the Democrats' level of overspending for the previous 4 years. It was more money that we were flushing down the toilet. I said, look, the Republican Party just went on record and funded every fraud we're seeing in Minnesota. The Republican Party voted to fund all the fraud going on in the People's Republic of California. And here was my statement, that we as a people have got to stop accepting Democrat fraud as the price of getting good government. Where am I going wrong?
Chris, you're not. And look, this is the current conundrum that some of us face who have been screaming this for years, right? Yeah. So I've been up here saying, guys, why are we passing these bills? Why are we funding it? Go back to the speaker's fight. Remember that 3 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
And we threw down to get conservatives on Appropriations Committee, conservatives in the Rules Committee. Now, we've been able to leverage that to hold spending flat since then, discretionary spending. Okay, the big, beautiful bill the president wanted in order to get the tax reform policies, in order to get other significant changes. And look, we got more than we've ever gotten before in terms of reforms, but more savings than we've ever gotten. But it's still spending at levels we shouldn't be spending at.
I know.
And that's not a criticism. And so I'm not being critical, by the way, of the president who wanted to get it done, nor am I being critical of our efforts to manage the voting block we have. But what I am being critical of, I agree with you, is we're building this house of cards keeps getting built upon itself. Does that make sense? So we're trying to figure out how to fund government. So right now, here's my conundrum. I've got a appropriations bill this week. I've got to decide what to do. And this morning, when I get off this phone call, I do one more interview. I got to go back because I was up till 2 a.m. negotiating last night. We got to go negotiate amendments on appropriations. We're being asked by the administration, and I understand why, to move this appropriations bill at flat level spending.
Yep.
That's actually usually historically a win, right? To hold spending flat. Don't make it more. But there's lots of things in the bill that's funding crap I don't like, that I wouldn't vote for. But we have a 2-seat majority in the House. And the Democrats want to jam up Homeland Security funding. Like they want to take it down. Now, I'm willing to play a little bit harder bluff with them, or play hardball to call their bluff.
Let them do it. Let them do it.
Well,
I think that'd be a great message going in. So, look what the Democrats did. They defunded your security. That'd be great. Let them do it.
And Chris, I hear you. The danger is, right, the president is, because remember, this package is defense,
yep,
homeland. So it's the funding for our troops. It's the funding for Homeland Security.
I get
it's funding for Border Patrol.
I get you.
The funding for ICE. So but trust me, man, I am throwing everything I got at it to hold it in check and to get amendments for things that you and I agree on. But that's what we're dealing with, and that's the reason it's a problem. And look, I got to trust and work with the White House, and I got to trust and work with the team to figure out how to move it forward. But bottom line is, we have got to change this town, and we've got to do it on the double. I'm throwing everything I have at it to try to fix it.
Well, let's pivot back. Speaking of that town, you want to get out of that town, and who can blame you to come back home to Texas? Congressman Chip Roy is our guest right now, running for Attorney General of the great state of Texas, folks, to replace Ken Paxton. What's your take on the state of the race as it sits today?
Well, I just got a poll sent to me by a friend of mine in a congressional district in Texas that shows that's a legitimate poll that shows Chip Roy 49, Joan Huffman 6, Mays Middleton 10, and Aaron Wright 4. Now, this is the kind of polling I'm seeing significantly around the state. Now, why do I share that? Well, I'm going around the state when I'm in Texas trying to earn every vote I can earn. But I'm also in D.C. doing my job.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to comment on any other members. but there's some members who don't think they need to be here. I think we do. We have a 2-seat majority. I have to be in D.C. So I'm missing forums that other candidates are going to, but I'm doing my job, and I'm sending a message home to Texas that that's how I'll be as Attorney General. I will fight every single day for the people of Texas. I'm a former federal prosecutor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I lived in McKinney and prosecuted in Sherman and Plano, put bad guys in jail, stood before judges. Not every one of my opponents have done that. I've held elected office, now my 4th term. I've beat a Democrat in a tough race. I beat Wendy Davis in a $30 million race. I can beat Democrats in a general election fighting as a conservative. I've done that. Not all of my opponents can say that. I've got an unassailable conservative record. Not all of my opponents can say that to the extent that I can. In a survey that showed and scored people based on their voting records and how much it's consistent with President Trump and the MAGA agenda, I was number 1 in Texas, number 2 in the entire House of Representatives, number 5 out of the entirety of the Senate and the House. Look, I'm ready to rumble on day one. I've built an office of the Attorney General before. I was Ken's first assistant Attorney General. And look, I'll just go ahead and say, what needs to be said. I haven't always agreed with every statewide politician. I haven't always agreed with, the people that I work with in Congress. But I stand up and fight for what the people I send me to do the job, send me there to fight for.
Oh, yeah, well.
And I've done it repeatedly. And I think that it's time to come home and to fight for Texas. The last point I'll make, if we don't beat the March of Islam, if we don't stop the Red-Green Alliance that want to destroy Texas and that are funding the demise of Texas and putting criminals on our streets, these woke leftist DAs, if we don't stop the March of Islam and we don't secure our border, we won't have a Texas left and we won't have an America left.
Well,
and we've got to beat the corporatists who want to put battery facilities and solar farms all over the state of Texas that enrich the Chinese and big corporate boardrooms in New York. And we got to take Texas back for the people of Texas. And I'm the Attorney General to do it.
Yeah, and thank goodness we have Elon Musk building a battery plant, a lithium battery plant in Texas. It's going to be ours. We'll be producing it, state of the art from everything I understand. So yeah, you took me where I wanted to go. Maybe this is your big issue, but as you are poised, if you win the Attorney General's race, what is the biggest legal issue? Narrow it down to one. I know it's tough. The biggest legal issue that you're saying, day one, the minute I get in there, I'm going to be tackling what?
Man, you make me pick one. It's tough. I mean, I'm going to have to give you 2 or 3. Number one, you've got to go take on and challenge the Islamification of Texas.
Okay.
If we don't, we lose Texas. Okay. Epic City, 300 mosques, the Islamic Center in Houston. We've got to get in. We got to fight. Number 2, you have to make sure that we are going to secure the border of Texas, no matter who's in Washington. Right now, we have the president doing the job. But when we have, God forbid, a future Biden-Mayorkas, we've got to be ready to throw down in terms of declaring invasion, in terms of all of the legal positioning we need to take to fight to say Texas can secure its border no matter what the feds are failing to do.
Okay.
That is critically important. Number 3, you've got to use the power of the Office of the Attorney General to go rip apart the nonprofits and the NGOs that are taking taxpayer money and that are funding all of these groups that are funding the DAs, that are putting criminals on the streets, that are funding the Islamification of Texas, that are funding all of these radical groups that you're seeing happen in Minneapolis. Look, that's coming to Texas. Okay, that stuff's all coming to us.
That's already here.
And you've got to go challenge that and seek those dollars wherever you can get it. Look, and the one that no one talks about, we have got to challenge Plyler v. Doe.
Yes.
That was the Supreme Court opinion in 1982 or 3 that said we have to fund the education of illegal alien children. That is an enormous magnet. It's destroying our ability to afford our schools, and we've got to beat that case just like we beat Roe versus Wade.
Amen.
It has not been done nearly enough, with all due respect to all the great people that have served in the AG's office. It's a major priority that we've got to take on.
Now, the one issue, and this has to be the last question because we're running up against the clock here. The biggest issue, one of the big issues I see, is election integrity. There was a story that came out from Rasmussen Reports that had articulated that a lot of these companies, ES&S, Dominion, these voting machines have components that were made in communist China. And I'm sorry, as an American, I don't like voting machines. I don't trust voting machines, and frankly, the fact that we're outsourcing parts to a foreign nation, an enemy nation, to register our most sacred right, that doesn't sit well with me. So, what could you, as the Attorney General, not only what could you do to enforce election integrity in the state of Texas to make sure that places like Harris County aren't cheating like they normally do for the last three election cycles, but also that would maybe set us on a track, maybe with some legal opinions that would say, you know what, maybe voting machines are not the way to go for the state of Texas.
So very clearly, the people of Texas want us to move back to paper ballots and to hand counting. And I'll tell you, let me just talk about D.C. for a minute. I'll come back to Texas. In D.C., I'm currently drafting alongside one of the great lawyers on these topics, Cleta Mitchell and Mike Lee. We drafted the SAVE Act. We're drafting a companion or, frankly, a replacement, we'll see, that would be the SAVE Act plus the voter ID like I described before, but it would also include limitations on early voting, elimination of mail-in ballots and requirement of only the old school absentee ballots, and then paper ballots / hand counting ballots, and then some other requirements that you match the data for voter rolls to what you're talking about with respect to the votes that you see, and a bunch of other stuff, all to try to guarantee election integrity at the federal level, federal elections. I think those are the same rough parameters that we should have in Texas. Now, you got to work with the people in order to get that accomplished and get it through the legislature, and I would work to do that. But to your point, you have to use the power of the opinion process and the power of the ability to issue legal opinions to make clear the things that are currently under law that are potentially violative of law or violative of the principles of our Texas Constitution or the U.S. Constitution. And I think that is a critical, important part of the AG's office. And I do believe that the lack of confidence that the people have in the online voting machines is a critical problem for the state of our republic. I think we should go back to the hand-counted ballots and we should move forward. Now, I'm disappointed. I've seen a few of the jurisdictions in Texas who were talking about paper ballots and hand counting that have kind of backed away from it a little bit. I think we all need to organize together and push forward to do that. It takes hard work, but what's more important? Like, increase your precincts, increase your manpower on election day and those weeks of election. But I think Texas ought to lead the country on eliminating mail-in ballots fully to the extent that they exist and clear up absentee ballots, but importantly, make sure that we have same-day voting or early voting that's no more than a day or two. We shouldn't have 2-week early voting, in my opinion. I think it should be a few days max, so you're all voting on the same stuff. Remember the whole Hunter Biden laptop issue, right? We had all of that early voting that was being based on information that wasn't the same by election day.
Yep.
I think we ought to all go in either the same day, maybe a couple of days early voting, to help the elderly and so forth. But it's got to be something reasonable, and you've got to have absentee ballots, paper ballots, hand counting, and confidence in our election. Election
day, not election month, is what we say.
Correct.
Congressman Chip Roy, folks, he's running for Attorney General of the great state of Texas. If folks want to pitch in, check out what you're all about, where can they go?
ChipRoy.com, ChipRoy.com, on Twitter /X, ChipRoyTX, ChipRoyTX. Appreciate it, Chris. Thanks for what you do to keep the people informed. And look, God's good. God's in charge. I'm putting my name out there. I'd love to be the Attorney General of Texas, but it's up to the people of Texas. I'm good with that. I love the people of Texas, love our state. We've just got to fight to keep her.
Yeah, next caucus meeting, just see how your colleagues react when you drop the line. Hey, I was on a radio interview and I was told that we Republicans can't allow the price for funding good government to be funding all of the Democrats' fraud.
Correct. Well, hey, if you got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So a year ago when Elon Musk came to visit us, he was talking about what they were going to do in Doge and exposing fraud and waste. And everybody got up to the microphone and said, God, you're awesome. This is great. You're going to do such great work. And I went to the microphone and I said, Elon, you're going to find fraud. You're going to find waste. You're going to find plenty to cut. But you know what your problem is going to be? All of my colleagues you're looking at in this room. Yeah. They're going to stand in your way and they're going to demand that we keep funding that stuff. Sure enough, guess what's happened?
Sure enough.
And Elon and I have talked about that. We've got to change it down. We are changing the culture. We are changing it, just not fast enough.
Yep. Chip Roy, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Hey, God bless.
Telephone